Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's been stated ad nauseum in this Assembly that we have regrets, the government has regrets about how Bill 6 was initially communicated to the public and farmers. However, Mr. Speaker, I am proud to be part of a government working to protect the rights of vulnerable working people and provide them with the basic protections that they deserve. And I'm not prepared to delay these rights for another minute. I appreciate that farm families have concerns. But let's be clear, Madam Speaker. This government and this bill will delineate between what it means to be a parent and what it means to be an employer on a farm. There is no desire to change the way family farms operate and how farm families raise their children. The only goal is to protect paid employees and give them a financial safety net in the event of injury or death. Madam Speaker, I always appreciate the sage input from our loyal opposition. But what's been missing from their input, however, has been the positive aspects of this bill, and that it will bring the positive aspects that it will bring to families who make a living hiring themselves out for farm work. And this is primarily the peace of mind that comes with a financial safety net and the ability to be able to refuse unsafe work and working conditions. We've heard the stories over the years of paid farm workers being killed and leaving their family without any means. And we've heard the stories of how these families have to litigate to receive any type of compensation. This bill will give peace of mind to these families and will also help to protect farmers from the aforementioned litigation.
Hear, hear.
Madam Speaker, the lack of rights for paid farm workers is a black hole in Alberta's legislation. When I read the OH&S Act with all its protections around refusing unsafe work, etc., and I see that there's an exemption for farm workers, Madam Speaker, it makes me sick to my stomach. This exemption is disturbing, antiquated, and long overdue for change. With this bill, we'll be able to provide paid workers with basic protections. And through consultation, we will be able to provide the exemptions necessary to run a farm, such as hours of work, days of work, etc. Other occupations have these type of exemptions made in consultation, and the same will be true for farms. We've heard in this Assembly over the past week, when Labour and OH&S legislation was first crafted, that workers were given basic protections first, and the details such as hours of work were worked out in consultation after the basic protections were in place. And that's what will happen with this bill. There's been a lot of alarmist things said both inside and outside of the Assembly. And one of those things is that our government is trying to unionize all farms in Alberta. Well, Madam Speaker, that's not true. And Madam Speaker, no government in Canada has this ability. And while the ability for paid farm workers to organize is available through this bill, the Supreme Court of Canada already gave them this right in a decision.
That's right.
I well know that that groups that do organize unions, they do so when they feel unsafe and unhappy about their working conditions. Well, Madam Speaker, Bill 6 just may give paid farm workers the say that they need for good working conditions that may remove the need for these workers to organize. I read a quote recently from the leader of the third party from January of 2015, and I believe it was an interview coming on the heels of a death of a paid farm worker. And he was asked why his government wasn't moving to protect farm workers with legislation. And his response, and I paraphrase, was, "It's an Albertan tradition that we don't want to change."
Shame.
A tradition, Madam Speaker? Hazing on kids' sports teams used to be a tradition, but it's dangerous, so it's not done anymore. Tradition Madam Speaker, is not a reason to put paid farm workers and their families in danger or leave them without a means of livelihood. I encourage everyone in this Assembly to move past the early miscommunication and move forward with the work of protecting all of Alberta's workers and developing the necessary regulations to make it work through consultation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable member for Bounce Cochrane on 2928.
Well, I'd really like to thank the member for his take on this subject. And he talked a little bit about changing traditions and, sort of sometimes breaking from the status quo. So I'd like him to maybe expand a little bit about what that means to him, and maybe about, what his motivations were for running for election to do some of these kind of things. And my other question would be about, he talked about occupational health and safety, and I'd like him to, if he wouldn't mind, to elaborate on how our occupational health and safety system here in Alberta contemplates a joint relationship between the employer and the employee to work together in a collaborative manner to determine and create a safe workplace.
Honourable member?
First part of that question?
You talked about sort of challenging the status quo and breaking from tradition. And perhaps, some of us here ran for election for the purpose of making some positive changes for the people here in Alberta in the best interest of the public. And I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Certainly, I've been advocating for rights for paid farm workers for many years, and I think it's something that's been sorely lacking from Alberta's legislation. There's no question, and that was part of the ND's platform during the election. There's no question. OH&S legislation says that we have joint health and safety committees, and that's usually run between the employer, and if there's a union, there'll be a union rep there. If there's not, then there'll be a representative from the workers. They're great in maintaining safety. And, there's been a lot of talk about education being a source of protection, and it's very true. I mean, education needs education to make sure that people are safe. What's missing in that piece is the compensation piece that I think is very important with this bill, is that education is not going to compensate a family whose breadwinner died. Thank you, Madam Speaker.